As the political power of the popes had grown, their position became highly sought after. The papacy became the prize and plaything in the blood-spattered power struggle between competing Italian families. Several popes were murdered here at the Castel Sant'Angelo, once the mausoleum of the Emperor Hadrian, and now the fortress, prison, and torture chamber of the papacy. The popes became power-hungry players in the savage scheming of Italian politics. And their abuse of papal authority dragged the Holy City into its darkest period yet. In 897, Pope Stephen VI gave an order of the most twisted and malicious kind. He ordered the digging up of the corpse of a former pope whom he hated. Pope Formosus's mummified body was dressed up in papal robes, propped up on a mock throne, and put on trial before the Holy Synod. His crime? Violation of canon law. The charges were read out, and a deacon was assigned to defend the accused pope. Found guilty as charged, Formosus was stripped and mutilated. The 3 fingers he used for papal blessings were chopped off. He was dragged and tossed into the Tiber. But this grisly masquerade was only the start. From now on, nothing was sacred. The popes played a vicious game of power and pleasure. No crime was too diabolical for these heirs of St. Peter. In the early 10th century, the papacy became dominated by one aristocratic family, the debauched and merciless House of Theophylact. The scurrilous chronicler of their rise to power was Bishop Liutprand of Cremona. Liutprand doesn't exactly hold back, especially with the women of the family, who are described without exception as a tribe of sex-mad megalomaniacs. He says Count Theophylact's wife, Theodora, was a shameless harlot, and that her 2 daughters were, if anything, faster in the exercise of Venus. The most infamous was Marozia. A wily politician and a murderous man-eater, Marozia must have been as gorgeously depraved as she was dynastically effective. She seduced or married an entire apostolic succession of popes and kings and managed to dominate Rome for years. Drawn deeper into the mire, Rome's once mighty popes became pawns in the cesspit of local politics. At just 15, Marozia had a wicked affair with Pope Sergius III, producing a son. Later, Marozia became mistress of another pope, John X, but she turned against him and married his enemy, Guy of Tuscany. In 928, they successfully carried out a coup d'etat in the Lateran Palace, the papal residence. Marozia had John X arrested, imprisoned, and then strangled in the Castel Sant'Angelo, leaving her as de facto ruler of the city. The papacy and Rome sank to ever greater depths of moral depravity. Marozia even raised her own bastard son to the throne of St. Peter. But things began to fall apart for Marozia. Her other son, Alberic, invaded Rome, arrested John XI, and imprisoned his mother in the Castel Sant'Angelo. Marozia died in there, probably murdered by her own son. As for Alberic, he ruled Rome for 20 years with the majestic title, Prince and Senator of all the Romans.